How to create a Gantt chart in Excel to manage your projects. Basically, the first thing that we're going to need to do here, and we're going to do it step by step, is our data set. We're going to need to have here the tasks or activities, the start date and the end date, the duration in days. That is a math that we're going to do here, but it's simple to do. And we also have the responsible, the person who is going to be in charge for each one of the activities that we have here. And here to the right, we have our Gantt chart in Excel. The Gantt chart in Excel is a better way to visualize your data instead of using here this data set, because with the Gantt chart in Excel, we can actually see when an activity starts, when it ends. If you have, let's say, one activity that is happening along something else, for example, like market research, development, marketing. So maybe here in this period right here, I'm gonna need more, let's say, employees available here because I'm gonna need more people work here in the company in this specific period right here, because we're gonna have here 3 activities, 3 tasks happen at the same time. And here down below, I can also see the last 2 activities that I have: results, evaluation, and closure. But of course, you don't need to use the same information that I'm using here. You can use your own data set with your own informations, with your own data. And that way, you're going to be able to make a Gantt chart in Excel. Follow here with me this step by step. So let's go. The first thing that we can start with is to creating the data set that we're going to use to manage our projects and to create the Gantt chart in Excel. As we want to control and see the tasks that we're going to have, the activities, I think it's important to start with the activities itself. So I'm going to type it in here in the first cell, tasks, for example, or activities. And in the next column, I can type it in, let's say, the start date, as we want to track when something starts and when it ends, for example. End date is also important. And in the next column, we want to calculate the duration in between the first date and the second one. We're going to calculate how many days is in between the start point and the end point, the end date. And in the last column, I think it's important to have the responsible or the name of the employee that is going to be in charge for each one of the activities, each one of the tasks that we need to do. Now we're going to, let's say, select the column A, B, C, D to the column E, for example. In between one column and another, I can click, hold, and drag to the right, for example. That way, I can increase in size the columns, like this, for example. If you think the columns is too large, let's say the column A, I need to be the largest column. Now the column B, C, D, and E, I can decrease it a little bit like this, for example. Okay, I think now it's fine. I'm going to start to fill it in here, the tasks and activities that I'm going to use. And then I can fill it in the start date, the end date, and also here the responsible. I'm gonna pause the video just to not make this video too long, but you're gonna fill it in with your own activities. You don't need to code the activities or the tasks, the projects that are gonna fill it in here. Okay, you can use your own data set. Okay, I just finished to fill it in here with the informations that I'm gonna need to use. I fill the tasks with these informations. That is planning, market research, development, marketing, result evaluation, and closure. And also here in the start date and the end date, I also fill it in with information. And here in the last column, I fill it in this last column right here with everybody that is in charge for each one of the tasks that I have. So I have here John, Maria, Chris, Tim, and Tim. But you can fill it in with your own data, okay? You don't need to go what I'm doing here. Now with this, just to make it a little bit more pleasant to look at, I can select the entire first row and then Home tab. I can centralize and align everyone in the middle and put everyone here in bold, like this, for example. Now, let's calculate here the duration in days in between the start date and the end date. To do it, we can use a simple formula in Excel that is equal to the end date minus the start date, like this, for example. Enter. Now I can click here in the first formula that I did, click in the down right corner of the cell, hold and drag down to make sure all the rows contain the same function, the same formula in this case here. Now we can do the chart itself. To do the chart, I'm going to use basically a bar chart. But I will not select everything that I have here. I'm just going to select the first 2 columns. So the column A and the column B, like this, for example. Now I can click in the Insert tab and select here this chart that is column or bar chart. Instead of using the first option as the bar chart, that is a clustered bar chart, I'm going to select the second option, a stacked bar. Select the second option. I can click, hold, and drag and move the chart a little bit up, for example, and I can also click here in the circle, click, hold, and drag out to increase the size of the chart. I know that it's not looking like a Gantt chart yet, but with this step right here that we're going to do, it's going to look like a Gantt chart. I can select everything here in the column D, for example, select everything here, Control C to copy, click in the chart area, and then Control V. Now it's more like a Gantt chart in Excel. But first, one problem that we have here is our task and activities is ordered in, let's say, in a logical way. Planning, market research, development, and so on and so on. But if you take a look in the Gantt chart here in Excel, it's ordered in an inverse way. So the first activity that we actually have in the first row of our data set is actually the last one here in the Gantt chart. So we need to invert this order right here. To do it, I can double click in this text, 1, 2, to open this right panel right here. And here in the X option, I can click in categories in reverse order. Okay, now we're almost done. I can close here this right panel. One thing that we can do to make sure this chart looks like a Gantt chart, I can click here in this blue bar and then format, shape, fill, no fill, for example, like this. And we basically done. Of course, if you want to continue to make some changes here to make your chart more beautiful, let's say the way, more modern, you can continue to do this change. And I'm going to show you some changes that you can do here that I like the most. I'm going to start with just removing these grind lines here in the Excel spreadsheet because I think it's a good way to use your chart or your data set or spreadsheet in a presentation, for example. You can click here in the View tab and then grind lines like this, for example. Another thing that we can do here, instead of using this starting with December 10th of 2023, for example, it makes no sense because my first task is starting January 1st of 2024. So we have here this gap, this void, this blank space that I'm not using here. So instead of having this blank area to using for nothing, I can instead make my Gantt chart starting just right here. So instead of starting with December 10th, for example, I can start in January 1st. And this is what you're going to do. I'm going to double click here in this legend that I have here in the horizontal axis. So double click here, 1, 2 to select and to open this right panel. Now, instead of using as minimum point this value that is within it, I'm going to change to January 1st of 2024, for example. Enter. And as you guys can see, the area is already updated for me. Now, one more thing that we can do is click here in the orange chart and make it a little bit thicker. So I can just click in the area of this bar chart. And here, gap width, I can, instead of use 150%, I can use, let's say, 50% maybe, or 60% like this. I think it's good. Now, the last two steps that we can do here. Tell me how much days I need to complete this task right here, development task. This activity is 2 days, 4, 5. You tell me. You can tell, huh? Because I have no number here in this orange area, for example. So we can do something here. We can put the how many days to complete the task over this bar right here. Basically, you're going to take this duration right here and put all these numbers over the bar that we have. Instead of just calculating here manually, see the start point date and the end date and do the math beforehand, we can make Excel works for us. I can click here in this orange bar and then chart design, add chart element, data labels, and then center, for example. And as you guys can see here, we have now the how many days to complete a task, 7, 15, 8, and so on, so on. We can also make this number a little bit larger, for example. I can click just in the number, home, and then increase the font size, for example, like 12, put it in bold, for example, and also change the color to white, for example, like this. I can actually make it bigger, so 24, for example, I think it's good. And the last step that we can do here, instead of using just these vertical lines that we have here, we can also add here a horizontal line, because that way we can split each one of these tasks that we have better, I think. So we're going to select here the area of the chart design here to the left, add chart element, and then grind lines, primary, major, horizontal, like this, and we're done, guys. So this is our Gantt chart in Excel. Now I can compare each one of the activities that I have in a visual way, okay, because of course With just the data set, I actually can do it, but with the chart, it's better. I hope that this video can help you out. And of course, you don't need to just code all the activities and the informations, the data that I'm using here. You can use your own data, your own information, your own spreadsheet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow. As every day has a new video, I see you there.